Hello everyone, I'm 9mm Mauser Man. Thank you for watching this video on the differences between S&B 9mm Makarov and 9mm Luger. 9mm Makarov is generally 95 grains, that's what our ammunition is today, and our 9mm Luger ammo is 115 grains. Accuracy testing between 9mm Makarov guns and 9mm Luger guns is very hard to get consistent. I would love to have this gun in 9mm Luger, but it doesn't exist. So you need to test other guns in 9mm Luger, and that can be a little bit challenging to find one that is exactly the same. I could maybe go with a CZ75 compact, but I don't own one of those. So instead I'm using my friend's FN509C. That at least gets the velocity testing consistent because they have similar barrel lengths. So during this video, if I'm gesturing between the two guns, I might pick up my Beretta APX-A1. Obviously, it's not an FN509C, but that's my friend's gun, and it's not at my house right now. I think that gets us ready to talk about the velocity testing. It ain't cheap being an 8mm Mauser Man, and it ain't easy to have this much drip. That's why I'd like to tell you about 3 ways that you can support this channel. Number 1 is all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. You already know the drill. It tells YouTube that this is the content you want to see, and it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Second, we have 3 awesome stickers available for purchase. Simply send $5 to the Venmo in the description, and in What's This For, be sure to include the term retro, logo, or subscribed, so that I send you the right one, along with your address. You can also send your address to the email in the description if that makes you feel safer. Third, in the description there is a link to Player. Player is like YouTube and Patreon put together, but they don't take as much of your money, so it goes to supporting the content that you want to see. Finally, I'd like to add that 20% of all of the money that comes into this channel goes to supporting Rafa International, an organization that helps fight sex trafficking worldwide. Enjoy the rest of the video. So today I have ammunition from Cellier and Belay, S&B. So first we're going to shoot the S&B 9mm Makarov ammunition out of my CZ82. 974. 965. 1192. That one's probably wrong. 958. 997. 951. 981. And failed to lock open on empty. That's just with the way I grip this particular pistol. Okay, now for the 9mm Luger, we are using my friend's FN509C. 1216. Error. 1206. 1209. 1244. Did not read. Error. 1196. Looks like I do the same thing with this pistol of gripping it too far up for the slide to lock back. Probably need to work on that. The ranges and velocity between these two rounds is really consistent. 46 grains and 48 grains. However, what we would notice is the great velocity difference. The 9mm Makarov had an average velocity of 971 feet per second, and the 9mm Luger, with a very similar barrel length, had a velocity of 1,214 feet per second. So that is about 250 feet per second higher from the 9mm Makarov to the 9mm Luger. And especially given the higher grain weight of the 9mm Luger, that translates into energy. The 9mm Makarov was 199 energy foot-pounds, and the 9mm Luger was 376 energy foot-pounds. That is almost double the velocity, and one thing that reminds us is that you will sometimes hear people say that 9mm Makarov is between 380 and 9mm Luger. So 380 is 9x17, 9mm Makarov is 9x18, and 9mm Luger is 9x19. So it seems like we would think that 9mm Makarov is halfway between 380 and 9mm Luger. In actuality, it is much closer to 380 in velocity. Someday I'd like to get a 380 gun and we'll test that, but this video is not about that. but you will just see that 9mm Makarov is considerably less powerful than 9mm Luger. With that, let's move on to the accuracy testing. And like I said, there's really no way to get a fair comparison here because one gun has a exposed hammer and fits really well in my hand and has a fixed barrel, meaning that it would probably be more accurate. However, it was also made in a communist country almost 40 years ago now, so that would lower its quality. The other gun is a modern, high-quality, striker-fired handgun, but has a tilting bolt. And so it is just hard to get these two things consistent. However, I still wanted to collect this data, and I will still show you guys. So the 9mm Makarov is on your left and the 9mm Luger is on your right. So for a gun I'm not familiar with, I'm going to say that that's not too bad. And then the 9mm Makarov is right here. That is a below par group, but that may have been better if you had a better shooter. So the group with the 9mm Makarov is a little bit worse, probably about 4 inches, and the group with the 9mm Luger is probably about 3 inches. Neither of those groups are stellar, so you'd probably get better groups if you had a better shooter, but it is a good reminder about something with handguns. If you watch handgun reviews, they will talk a lot about the mechanical accuracy. They'll talk about things like the fixed barrel or what type of rifling it has. But really, the ultimate thing to remember is that most handguns will outshoot you and I. So the most important thing to handgun accuracy isn't the gun, it is the shooter. Now, there are certainly things that can help with that, like sights that are a little bit easier to use, or maybe provide more contrast, or a better trigger. But ultimately, it is up to you to do the work with a handgun because the handgun will most likely outshoot you. There are a few lessons we can learn from all this. Number one, it's important to remember that 9mm Makarov and 380 are considerably less powerful than 9mm Luger. 9mm Luger is a pretty powerful cartridge in all honesty, and the locked breech is something that is usually required because of how much more powerful it is. Now, the other thing that we should say is because of that locked breech, it's important to remember that even though 9mm Makarov is less powerful, typically 9mm Luger is a little bit easier to shoot because of that locked breech, and because it typically comes in slightly larger handguns. So I frequently take people to the range, even before this gun had a compensator, and I would take them to shoot this gun and take them to shoot this gun, and just kind of a number of different guns that I had. And people almost always felt more comfortable shooting this one than this one. And the primary reason for that is the locked breech makes it a little easier. So 9mm Luger is significantly more powerful, and it's significantly easier to shoot in many but not all cases. All right, point number 2, most handguns are going to shoot pretty well, and it's up to the shooter to make sure that they do. Sometimes there can be accuracy problems with specific handguns, but generally speaking, the handgun itself is going to shoot better than the shooter, and the shooter just has to do their job. Those two things were my major takeaways from this video, but maybe you had some others, so feel free to leave those takeaways in the comments down below. I do read every single comment, and I also respond to most of them. Also, let me know if you have any questions about any of the gear or guns that you saw in this video, and I'd like to give you some feedback there too. All of that being said, I am 9mm Mauser Man, and I think that we need to petition CZ to bring back the CZ82 and CZ83. But I lived on.
Which proves it's hard to get the best of a man named John. Big John.